Jungle Cruise Base, this is Branco Beauty. We have run aground just south of Manaus. All hands are fine. We will wait till the tides change. Over.
Once upon a time, in a faraway land, a young prince lived in a shining castle.
Ah, there you are. And just in time. There's a little matter I forgot to mention.
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your guide to Walt Disney World and Disney parks and experiences around the world. I'm your host, Lou Mangello, and this is show number 812. And since 2004, together we've been sharing Disney magic here through the podcast, my live video show every Wednesday night, blog, events, newsletter, and more. You can join the community in conversation and find everything at WDWRadio.com. And I want to invite you this week to join us as we dive deep into Disney Cruise Line's latest ship, the Disney Treasure. We're going to uncover the magic, surprises, and innovations that set the Treasure apart, not just from her sister ship, the Disney Wish, but from the entire cruise industry. From immersive dining experiences to jaw-dropping spaces like the Haunted Mansion Parlor, you're going to discover how Disney raises the bar for storytelling and placemaking, dining and entertainment in this complete guide and review to everything you need to know about the Disney Treasure. And because there was so much to cover and because I wanted to really keep the focus on the Treasure this week, I'm going to skip the Walt Disney World Trivia Question of the Week, bring it back next week. But in the meantime, please don't forget to connect with me on social. I'm at Lou Mangello on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you're looking for a speaker for your event, conference, or business and want to apply lessons from the Disney parks to your organization, or if you're a creator or solopreneur who wants to turn your passion into profession, head on over to LouMangello.com, find out some of the ways that I can help you turn what you love into what you do. And of course, if you like what you hear on this week's show, and I hope that you do, please share the show and tell a friend. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. The newest ship in the Disney Cruise Line fleet, the Disney Treasure, lives up to her name and not only delivers on the standard that we have come to know and, in my case, love from Disney Cruise Line, but in many ways might just be raising the bar, not just for the Disney fleet, but the cruise industry, and I think even for Disney itself. Why do I say that? Let's find out and see if my sentiments are mine alone, as having just been invited by Disney Cruise Line to experience a very special 3-night preview cruise before the Treasure welcomes her first guest this week. There was a lot to see, do, experience, and of course eat, and I could not do it alone. I mean, I did do it alone, but for purposes of this podcast, I wanted to get some other trusted voices to join me. So I'd like to welcome back to the show Serena from Living by Disney. We were fortunate to be on the same sailing together and experience a lot of the same things, sometimes together.
Hello, so excited to talk about this.
And of course, this conversation could not happen without Becky Mankin from Mouse Fan Travel, who I metaphorically waved to as I was getting off the ship and she was getting on, which I think is a good thing, not because we miss each other, but I think we have two different sailings to potentially compare and contrast. So welcome back.
Well, it's good to be here, and especially just getting off the Treasure. I'm really interested to hear your takes because obviously Disney Cruise Line is really important to all of our businesses, and it is an interesting addition to the fleet.
It's also very important to this waistline and physique that I have, but I want to start off one word. Give me one word to describe the Disney Treasure.
Oh, one word. That's so hard. I'm going to say unique.
Unique was a good word. I don't want to go magical because that's kind of strange. Improvement.
I was going to use a word that had a lot of like hyphens in between to be like
you were
very
cheat.
pleasantly. I was absolutely going to
You're
cheat.
gonna cheat, yeah.
So I'll say surprising. I think that the treasure was surprising, and so maybe as an extension of that, what were your expectations sort of going in, right before you even stepped foot on board? What were your sort of very quick expectations?
Oh, I feel like I want to change my word, though.
I'm not editing this out, just so you know.
I think I also, maybe I would add to it as special. That's because I kept saying over and over again, this is really special. My expectations going in after doing The Wish, The Wish was not my favorite ship. It was maybe my fourth. There's only 5, so I don't know. I don't want to say it's my least favorite. Not that I would turn down a sailing on the Wish. It's beautiful. It has a great experience, but I guess thinking this is a sister ship of the ship that is not my favorite, I was didn't have the highest expectations.
I'm along the same route because the Wish and the Treasure are sister ships. The bones are exactly the same. So some of the things that kind of annoy me about the Wish were going to be present here as well. And I came in with low expectations and had some discoveries along the way that maybe it's not all about the bones. Some of the things still had some annoyances, but I think overall I was rather surprised.
Yeah, I think I as well. And look, I also acknowledge, we come from having cruised before, so our framework when we stepped foot on the Wish was we were used to sort of the layout of the classic and then the Dream class ships. So maybe for us, there were some things that didn't make sense, we didn't like as much because we're used, but some people, the Wish is their favorite ship. And Becky, I think you and I too come from a slightly different perspective too, because most of the times when we're cruising, we have a group, right? So we sort of come at it from how conducive is this to groups and what is this going to be like going from the Wish to the Treasure. And we've done group cruises on the Wish. So my expectations were, well, it's going to be the Wish with sort of a quote-unquote metaphorical different coat of paint on it. And it absolutely was not. And I think that's maybe a good place to start is by sort of setting the stage in this comparison to the Wish, because you are too, we are parents of 2 kids. Same parents, different kids. Like, you don't know if those 2 kids are from the same parents. You're like, I'm pretty sure we were all part of it's this. I think it's the same with the Wish and the Treasure.
Yes, that is such a good analogy. That is exactly that way. And you're like, they came, like Becky said, same bones, same footprint. How different it feels to have these overlays. I feel the same way about, maybe not as good an analogy as children, but Dinosaur Ride versus Indiana Jones. I know it's the same track. You can tell me that a million times. That ride feels completely different to me. It is not the same ride experience. I will die on that hill. Indiana Jones is way better. Yes. And so it just shows you the difference that the facade, the lighting, the theming, everything that your 5 senses are telling you, the difference that it makes in your end experience.
Yeah. What she said, basically, because that's exactly it. I was really surprised at the difference is in the color schemes made it so much different. Even a couple of little changes in like where we'll talk about this obviously, but the Scat Cat Lounge, how it opens up at one side, it makes all the difference in the world with the experience of that location. It's these teeny little changes that made a lot of difference.
Yeah, the thing that I kept on saying was, and I didn't think it was possible, but I was incredibly surprised from the moment I stepped foot on board. I was like, whoa, this is not the Disney Wish. This is something very different, because when you stepped foot on board, and I think the word a lot of us used or heard I was like, there was this instant sort of warmth and almost embrace in the Grand Hall that I didn't feel on the Disney Wish. So the spaces and the storytelling and the placemaking and the theming and the experiences, while yes, they're sort of layered on that same skeletal framework, were very, very different. And look, this ship is coming out of I would say coming out of the gate, but coming out of the dry dock. It was built and designed for 7-night adventures, and I think this vibrant, adventurous theme compared to the Wish is instantly palpable from the second that you walked on board. And when we were talking about expectations, the thing that I was excited to see was, one, leaning into not just the Disney parks, but a sense of nostalgia. And what I found that the sort of the common thread as I was sort of looking back on all the experience, like, I have an emotional connection and resonance with this ship that I'd never sort of felt with the Disney Wish. I'm sure some people do. Like, if princesses and that sort of vibe is your thing with the fairy tale castle and enchantment and all that. But here I was like, oh, this speaks to me very much so.
Yes, I 1,000% agree. And that's so interesting because I am like a very classic Disney girly. I love Magic Kingdom, is my favorite park. I love the castle. I love the princesses. So I would think on paper, if you said, I'm going to give you a grand hall that's Cinderella fairy tale theme, or one that's Aladdin, Agrabah, Sultan Palace theme, I would say, I would go for the other. So it's more than just the color palette and the design choices that went into this that make it feel so comfortable and warm and like inviting, like a space you want to hang out in.
Well, the same thing, like you're talking about the Cinderella colors. So it is a palette of powder blue and silvers, and it does have a colder feel to it, right? Mm-hmm. So when we walked in and had the Aladdin feeling, you've got just warm, rich, inviting, warm hug colors. But, I mean, let's talk about the Princess in the Room for a second. The statue itself. I mean, it's no secret that the Cinderella is a little creepy. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be honest. But the Aladdin and Jasmine statue, that just pulls you in. You want to go over there. You want to look at it. You want to rub the lamp that's on the right-hand side. It just has so much more of a warm, inviting feeling. Welcome into my living room. Check this whole area out.
So inviting is a great word, because the thing that I felt too was I found myself wanting to spend more time there, because I think that space is layered with patterns and textures and jewel tones that not only sort of evoke that sense of adventure and the spirit of Aladdin, but I also think it is the heart of the ship, because the other spaces that literally and figuratively flow from it feel very connected to that space as well. I love the Aladdin and Jasmine statue. Like, I am not a merch person. I bought the Aladdin and Jasmine. I mean, I'm not that big one, not the full size, but I bought the little Aladdin and Jasmine statue, and I spent a lot of time looking at the mosaic tile work by the stage of the Peacock and Raja, and that tile work extends to the columns and up to the next deck where there's that mosaic by Hayes and outside of deck 4, and I loved how, again, there was a natural flow. And that chandelier is nothing short of spectacular. Not just during the day, but especially in the evening. And then if you see, the kiss goodnight and then the farewell show, they sort of, like everything else, they really leveled up what they did with the chandelier itself.
Yeah, I think as you're talking, I'm like, man, I wish I'd gotten to spend more time in there. Like, 3 days was not enough on this ship. I felt the same way about the Wish, though, totally. But at the same time, there's a lot of spaces here that you really just want to kind of soak in and enjoy.
And I think it's a multi-sensory experience. I find myself, and I do this, I know I'm a weirdo, I do this in the parks too. Like, I try and consume where I am, not just with my eyes, right? So I will close my eyes and I want to listen to the background sounds. I want to listen to the background music. I did that in the Grand Hall, and you can just, depending on the time of the day, especially like at night, you can hear not just Arabian Nights, but you almost get this sense of like this blowing sand, and one of the things that we're going to talk about a lot is the placemaking. The space itself is almost performative in the way it is put together.
It really is, but I will say I still don't understand the stage. I still really don't get how they did set up the stage in both of them. It seems like there could be better uses of that space, but maybe I just don't know.
That was my next point, because I actually think that they leveraged the stage and the floor really, really well. Did you see the interactive story adventure for the Jungle Cruise?
No, they did not.
You need to get out of the bars and lounges for 5 bleeping minutes, because I think that was one of the improvements, right? So they did the Jungle Cruise, an interactive story adventure, which was this new physical interactive game, inspired, I think, really almost more from the Jungle Cruise movie from 2021, but it is this team-based adventure where guests are split into 2 teams led by cast members who are exceptional. We will talk about them. But it's physical, it's interactive. There's a lot of different jungle challenges and nods to the movie, nods to the attraction. And I think the playfulness and the lighthearted competition, so I didn't participate. Serena, I know you did. It made everybody sort of feel involved in this participatory thing, which normally it's not. It's sort of a show that happens on the stage or up in the sort of the balcony area up on top.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a game you'd play in someone's living room. Like, weirdly, like it was very comfortable, and it made that hall area less formal feeling, like less of an area that you would just pass through and more of an area where you actually go to like interact with people and play a game. I thought that was a brilliant.
Yeah, I really like, and I'm hoping that they extend this to the Wish. I absolutely believe that lessons learned on the Wish were executed on the Treasure, and now it's going to be a reciprocal type of effect. Things that they're seeing are working on the Treasure, they'll start to implement on the Wish, because I thought that was this sort of unexpected surprise, and even just watching, it was so much fun. And again, too, I think the hosts who we saw in a number of different roles throughout, and we'll talk about the crew and the performers as we go through. But again, they made this empty Grand Hall a storytelling space, which is what I think it was supposed to be from the outset, and maybe they just hadn't sort of cracked the code on the Wish on how to do it. I think this very much is a lot of fun for adults. I mean, it really was all adults participating too.
Well, I hope so, because I would love to see that space being utilized better. And maybe just on our sailing they didn't have that available, or maybe it was missed due to other things that we were scheduled for. But I am going back.
Check your navigator.
Yeah, I'm going back. So I'll be on a 7-night sailing, and hopefully then I'll be able to actually participate in this, because I think that if they utilize this space, it'd be brilliant.
And I think this ship, and we said this too, so we were very fortunate to be on a 3-night sailing. 3 nights is woefully not enough, because this ship and the stories that are being told are built for a long voyage. And I've said this in the past, and I believe it even more so. That ship could go around in circles for all I care, because I did not want to get off, because I felt there was so much to explore and so much to do. Like there was always something happening. That thing that happened in the middle of the day. It's not like it was this adults-only nighttime experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. And thinking about how I said the same thing, like this ship felt like it was built for a week. But the ship is the same as the Wish. So what changed? It's got to be mostly the entertainment, right? It's the entertainment choices that they made and the way that they chose how to do the dining experiences, but mostly the entertainment and the shows, the games and the activities that makes it feel longer.
And I think we only got a very small taste of what the actual daily Navigator itinerary was going to have on it, right? Obviously, it was very limited. A lot of venues were closed because they were doing, media events and things like that. I'm very curious, Becky, when you go, to see what that Navigator is going to look like and the other experiences that are going to be on board, because I have a feeling that we just got a taste of some of the other things that they're planning on rolling out on a 7-night sail.
Yeah, that makes total sense, because seeing some of the spaces that they have available to them, we know that they like to keep people busy and out of their cabins and having fun and buying alcohol and
That's why Becky missed the show.
Exactly. Most likely. I was probably sitting in the Haunted Mansion Lounge, because I will tell you that you can't get anybody out of there until you're pried out of that place. And I'm sure we'll detail that in a bit.
Serena and I have no idea what you're speaking
about. I have a lot of time that I spent in there, probably a lot too much time. And maybe, yes, I missed some things, but anyway, I digress. I am really interested to see, because the caliber of a lot of the entertainment they brought onto the ship as opposed to the Wish was stunning to me. And I'm looking at you, Moana. That the things that they were focused on, and I was talking to one of the cruise director, and he was talking about how they purposely had to take a look at the schedule, because it's a 7-night sailing and you have to keep people engaged and entertained, and you can't keep doing the same thing over and over. So I am excited to see what they bring to the table.
You know, we talk about the level of entertainment, and look, Disney's a storytelling company, and I feel like this is a storytelling ship, and there were stories being told everywhere. I want to get to Moana, but you sort of mentioned the dining venues, and I think this is absolutely one of the places that I feel absolutely leveled up from the Disney Wish. So on Disney Wish, you have 1923, which celebrates the golden age of animation. You have Worlds of Marvel, and you have Arendelle, a Frozen dining adventure featuring characters from Frozen, which are all wonderful. I enjoyed each of the shows, and on the Disney Treasure, you have 1923 themed a little bit different. This is themed a little bit more towards adventure, and a lot of the decor and props and artifacts you see, Brave and Aladdin and Peter Pan and Encanto, and on the Roy section, Raya and the Last Dragon, Finding Nemo, Mulan, Pocahontas, Brother Bear, etc., etc. So I think this reflects, tying it back to Walt and Roy, I think it reflects Walt's love of exploration with adventurous storytelling throughout the ship. And again, this is what I mean about this common thread that I feel extends from the Grand Hall to all of these venues. We'll talk about Worlds of Marvel, but I think when you start talking about things like immersive dining experiences, Plaza de Coco was a huge standout for me. And again, you get to see it on 2 nights. We only get to see 1 because each night is themed differently. So the first night is meant to be this family gathering with the Riveras, and then the second night, which we saw, which is celebrating I swear I took Spanish for like 2 years, Dia de los Muertos with Miguel and his great-grandparents. You talk about using theme and atmosphere and space making and placemaking to immerse you into the world of Coco. You feel like you're not just in the town of St. Cecilia, but you are almost outside as this festival is going on, and that ofrenda when you walk in, and that, I even noticed like the seats. Like it reminds you of something that you would have in your house, your grandmother's basement, or the party in your backyard. All the chairs are different, right? You're sort of mixing and matching whatever, and everything really sort of ties into the story. And again, that entertainment is just next level.
What I loved about it is it reminded me a lot of how Blue Bayou is in that space with the lighting, and you felt like you were outside. It felt like you were in a plaza. The theming was gorgeous, and the lighting was gorgeous, and you felt like you were walking into a story.
Yeah, I think that was beautifully done. And I don't know if they were expecting the emotional connection that people had with that, but there was a lot of tears, and people were really very moved by that show. And I don't know if that was the intention, but if you can get that kind of emotional reaction out of a dinner show, that was not on my even list of things that I thought would stand out to me. So that was pretty impressive.
And it's not just when they sing "Remember Me." Like, you're right. I think a lot of that was. I felt that way when I had my empanada, but we'll get to the menu as well. I did. I said such happy tears. The food again. It's next level food, and like the stories that are being told, the spaces that are being made. We saw there were cultural ambassadors brought in to ensure a level of authenticity, not just to the film. Or we talk about the first time you walk into Cars Land, you feel like you're walking into the film. You walk past at Ofrenda, you feel like you're walking into Coco. but it is authentically Mexican, not just in terms of cuisine, but environment as well. And that warm communal theme that I think is, and the importance of family in Coco is what we all sort of felt. Mm-hmm. I think when you go, and however you define your family, right? It's you and your kids, you and your mom, your family that you make, the family that you're born into. I said this when you come out of Moana and when you come out of Coco, you might sort of hug everybody a little bit tighter because it gives you this like warm and fuzzy feeling inside.
It's an experience, and it's something that we can all identify with. It's that closeness of family. The show that we saw was that experience of loss too, and remembering the people that you've lost. And so you do have, all of us have felt that somewhere along the line. So you've got that communal feeling, you've got the communal emotion, that passion that comes along with it, and it's more than just a show. It's an experience.
I'm going to add too that it was so cool because we sat right next to Anthony, who's the voice of Miguel, and the director of the film. And
to be clear, he's not going to be on every sailing.
He's not. But it was so cool because this is I think he's like 20 now, I think.
His voice has changed.
Right. So, but you're seeing this was the boy that voiced this, right, and brought Miguel to life. And the show that you're seeing is supposed to be some years after the movie, so the lead character that's playing Miguel is about Anthony's real age now. So I'm just watching this and he's just looking at this show with these big stars in his eyes, and I can't imagine what that felt like for him. But it was such a cool moment because you're thinking, this is the magic of Disney. Again, they took something animated that was, in a movie, and they made it a real life, living, breathing space that you can actually go visit, live here, eat here, share a meal here.
They're getting good at that. They're getting really good at that, starting with Cars Land. I think that's the very first time that I ever felt like I am actually living this dream. And
we know what we're saving to talk about because it needs its own sort of separate discussion. But the other thing I really appreciated too was it wasn't just there were sort of a 1-act, 2-act, 3-act little show. I loved the live performances by the Mexican performance guys created specifically for this experience. And the performances begin as your appetizers are being served. So you're almost encouraged to get there early because you just want to sort of like live in this environment. I also want to make sure that my server understands I'm going to need a lot more space on my table because you're right. I think the food was, it was a huge, the Arendelle food is fine. I like it, but I was very, very impressed, and it felt authentically Mexican.
Yeah, it's like the tuna towers. I don't need anything else off that menu. Just give me the empanadas. Just give me a basket of those empanadas. But everything was amazing. Where from the chips and salsa at the very beginning, just to kind of set the stage, you have that authentic Mexican feel and the taste, and it's not so authentic that a family that may be a little spice resistant would have any issues. Everything was right on point.
Mm-hmm. It was by far my favorite meal of the cruise. The flavors of everything just hit perfectly. The guacamole was amazing. The desserts were great. They had a churro dessert. It was so good. The portions are really big too. But I think that overall, that's just a crowd-pleasing food, right? And if you have a pickier eater with you, what kid doesn't like something at a Mexican restaurant? So that to me is going to be everyone's going to love that.
And I like the fact that it's not one of those one or the other, right? Mm-hmm. It's it's theming and immersive storytelling or really good food. No, you get both. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you right off, Plaza de Coco was one of the, if I had sort of have top 3 highlights, it's in that list, without a doubt.
I will say the one caveat to this, or the one thing that I think will be sort of something to watch with this restaurant, is that you have a central theater in the middle and the restaurant is very big. So depending on where you're seated, we weren't in a full sailing, so everyone pretty much could see the stage pretty good. But if that is at all something of concern to you, you might consider requesting a table that's got a good view if you've got kids, or that's something that you're worried about. There will be some tables that don't have the best view of the show, and some people may like that and some people may not. So that's the only thing that I think may be sort of a disappointment.
Yeah, we've experienced that on other ships and sort of being in the Snuggly Duckling. We were sort of way in the corner, and there was sort of a pole in the way, which is fine. I didn't want anybody seeing how much food was out at my table, because the views go both ways. But you're right, and you can't necessarily, say this is the table that I want, and you can't, walk around during it, because the performers are walking through the venue as well. So they might not make it to every table, but they do make it around. But you're right, the closer you are in proximity to the center, the better seat that you're going to have. The other dining venue that I think bears mentioning, which prima facie is the same as Worlds of Marvel, but here, there's two different nights of menus. It's the Marvel Celebration of Heroes. It is the Groot remix. Becky, I thought of you, not just because I needed more space on my table, but, it sort of stars Rocket and Groot. But for me, for Worlds of Marvel, and I'm an admittedly huge Marvel fan, when we talk about leveling up and improvements over The Wish, there were a couple of things that stood out right out of the gate. One, I really like the story that's being told, and I love the music that is not just happening when things are on screen, but even the background music that plays through. If you like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, or if you like my Spotify playlist, this is going to be exactly up your alley, because I was sort of, bopping along every time the course was delivered, but I was also bopping along because of the music. And I love that your quantum core that is on the center of each of the tables is leveled up from The Wish, because now there are 4 colored buttons on it, and there's trivia. Remember, I started off writing a trivia book. Mm-hmm. There's trivia that goes on throughout the show. So whether you want to play, you want to have something to do, or your kids have something while maybe the adults are talking, I think it's such a simple, super smart addition to this restaurant. And then we can talk about the menu as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The trivia was a lot of fun. Where last time it kind of just rotates through the stories of the characters. But this one, I found myself not really paying attention to my food, but watching to see if I could actually answer these questions. Some are easy and good for any Marvel fan. Some are like, wait, I've never seen that character before. So it was entertaining. I did like the story. Yes, I'm a big Rocket fan. So that gave me all the feels for the story that goes on with Rocket and Groot. So I loved it. I do like the space. I like the atmosphere. I like the blue tones and the color. You do feel in a whole different space than a ship when you're in this restaurant. And the menu that we had was the day 2 menu, I do believe, and I did like that better. So I don't know if the day 1 menu is the same from The Wish yet. I'm not sure.
I believe it is. I believe it's the same.
I'm not as fond of that one. So to know that there's another menu that I really did enjoy. And yeah, it still has a Sunday, so yay me.
I have 3 words for you, and they are in order: ahi, tuna, poke.
I agree. I think that I definitely like the menu on this one better than the one on The Wish. I do feel like food-wise, this is my weakest restaurant of the 3 rotational dining ones. Food-wise, it's okay. It's fine. It's nothing bad. But I like this show a lot better. And I like, too, that the trivia is like you can do it if you want, but you can opt out. It's on the screen, but it's not being read to you or like blasted to you, because the show with the other one, you're kind of forced to watch it and pay attention to it. It's very distracting. It's like a show that's happening. So if you're not that into it, it's like, but this was like, if you want to do the trivia, you can, but if you just want to sit and enjoy your meal and talk to your friends at the table, you could do that too.
Yeah, like I couldn't help but as we were like talking across the table, I would sort of like slide my hand up to the quantum core around the back, and I bloop and hit the button. And hopefully it would turn green.
I was doing the same thing. I was like, oh, I know this one, and they're not going for it. So I'm just I want to keep our streak.
Yeah, they're all just, Lou, just keep doing it. Just keep, and then I would look around, like, see who else's quantum core would turn red. It'd be like, yeah. So, but I really, really, really liked that experience as a whole.
Yeah, kind of having an interactive element without forcing the issue. So you could have fun and play along, or you could just sit and have your meal and have a conversation. So I think that was kind of brilliant on their part.
Let's move over from dinner to this is what Becky's been waiting for.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the lounges and the bars. Just calm down. So on the Disney Wish, On deck 3, not far from the Grand Hall, you have the Bayou, which is this New Orleans-inspired lounge themed after, obviously, Princess and the Frog. And then Keg and Compass, which is a nautical pub, with a little bit of a sort of rustic, seafaring atmosphere. Well, they turned it up to 11 here because the Bayou is now the Skipper Society, inspired by the Jungle Cruise. Keg and Compass is now Periscope Pub, inspired by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, both the film and the attraction. And some of the other locations that have definitely been leveled up is on the Disney Wish. You have the Hyperspace Lounge, which is now the Haunted Mansion Parlor. You have Nightingales, which is a casual piano bar, which is now Scat Cats. Let's save the Haunted Mansion for last. Let's save it for last. Because, it's where we spent our time. Right, it is. It's where we spent our time. Skipper Society, I loved.
Spent a lot of time there.
I spent a lot. So I love Skipper Society because I dig leaning into the parks, leaning into nostalgia. The corny jokes are replete on the things that you see on the walls. There's stories that are being told. If you really follow along, there are SEA connections that you can find, especially in the banquettes in the back. The Tiffany-style chandeliers with the birds and little nods that you can find that pay homage to the attractions both in world and in land, to Skipper Canteen, some of the members of the SEA. I loved sort of going on my own little scavenger hunt, trying to, even in the artwork, if you notice the artwork right outside the parlor, which is just near there, that too is a treasure trove of little details. And I was by myself, I'm pointing to it, there's nobody else, and I'm like, look, it's pointing. But I love that there is so much of that, not just in that one piece of art, but throughout the ship, and there's a lot of very cool little details. Becky, I'm not sure if you ever end up seeing the video. That was the coolest thing ever, was that little detail that we were privy to find out on the last night.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, they're so smart to pull from parks fans, right? Because if you're going on a Disney cruise, you probably are a park fan anyway. And so the spaces feel very recognizable, and you feel already at home in them, which is so nice, because then obviously that's what you want. The more time you spend on any ship, the more it becomes like home. So when you've been on a ship several times, when you come back, you're like, oh, this is I'm back, this is great. So it's so nice that they are giving you that feeling right from the jump. When you're hanging out there, you already feel like you could be at Skipper and Canteen or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Skipper Canteen. Yes. Can I mention what that was?
You can.
Okay. So I did discover your little video that called me out, and so immediately.
Oh, my video, little.
So immediately, wherever I was, I don't even remember where I was. I'm like, I have to go try that. So a couple of the lounges have secret menus. And they were so much fun to discover once you figured them out. But this one I did not know about until I saw your big, massive, awesome video. So
watch your head and watch your step and watch your language, Becky Megan.
So on this on their electronic menu, which is like an iPad, you basically, if you're a Club 33 member, or anybody can actually do this, you just have to be a member to order off the menu. You trace the numbers 33 on the menu, and all of a sudden this really cool menu just explodes and pops up, and you can order from this secret menu. They do make you show your membership card, so I tested that theory, and they certainly do. But again, those little discoveries, those little finds, which I think the theme of the ship overall of adventure really lends itself so well to how they've used the IP. And especially in that space. And I'm going to say it because I will. I would have loved to have had less diamonds and more Skipper Society if there was more space in there. I think that it was hard to get into. Once people discovered it, that became the place that people went to have a cocktail at night. And I really enjoy the little secret hidden things. And I think people who enjoy Disney parks are always looking for those Easter eggs.
Yeah, and I love it when I think that space is, and it's utilized throughout the day, right? There's crafts and things like that for kids, but at night when it does sort of unofficially switch over to an adult-only area, I love when they have like a nice little jazz trio in there. And if you allow yourself, especially if you sort of make your way more towards the center and interior parts or get into one of those banquettes, I really tried when I sat there, because it's open on both sides, right? And to Becky's point, if you're unfamiliar with what she's referencing, there is a jewelry and watch store on one side, and there's the Haunted Mansion Parlor entrance and another gift store on the other. And you do almost feel like it's open, like you're in, like it's a space that's in like a shopping mall, like in the middle of a mall. You have to almost allow yourself to sort of, put your blinders on and block that out. And I think this space, because of the low canopy and some of the way it's decorated, I felt I was able to do that more here than I was over in Tiana's. I wish we just had more time to have sat in the banquettes and listened to some of the music and try some of the, there's, in addition to the themed cocktails, there's food there as well.
Mm-hmm. I wish too. I just opted for Haunted Mansion over that because it was just pulling me in. I had to go there. But I do think that, that being said, whatever is the next class of ships when they design a new one, I hope that they rework that area, just because like Fantasy's always been my favorite ship, mainly because I love the adults area and I love the tube. Because it is sort of an encapsulated little adult vibe right in that, you can hop from like one thing to a next and it's like all right there. And this just feels like you're in the middle of everything. You're in the middle of the ship. There's people going by. You have the mall shops here. It's like, it feels a little disjointed from a theming perspective. I think they did the most they could do with it, but it is in the middle of a bunch of stuff.
And the other location, the next location up one deck is the Periscope Pub, themed after 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This was one of the ones I was really excited for because I love both the film and the attraction. I may or may not get my bad James Mason impression out at some point before we're done today. But
do it.
was that your James Mason impression?
No.
But from the second you walk in, even as you sort of like pull those big doors open, you sort of feel like you are underwater in this very well themed, almost, steampunk is the word that's being used a lot, environment that you feel like you're underwater. Lots of great details. And I think too, this feels more as though it was something almost like pulled from the parks than Keg and Compass.
Yeah, I agree. We all, when we went, we were like, wait, what was this on the Wish? We had to pull it out of our brain. Like it wasn't even, Keg and Compass just wasn't memorable. Kind of Viking-esque kind of theming. I don't know. It was a little vague. This is very, very intentional, very specific. The theming here is really well done. It is sort of your sports bar area, so depending on when you go, you'll be able to watch games there or whatever if they're on. But it's very cozy. They did change the layout. So again, going back to that, like you have a footprint, but how it's styled and themed and laid out inside makes all the difference in how the space feels. Like they took a large bar area that was all along the side that made the other one on the Wish feel very long and narrow and thin, and they pulled the bar onto one side, and now it opens it up, and it just felt much bigger to me. And of course then you've got above you sort of this cover as if you're in a submarine, and you've got ocean up above you, so that also makes it feel a little more expansive. And I think they did just a fantastic job with the theming, and it is also cozy. Mm-hmm. It's not a big space, and I think this is one time where you want that because it feels much more immersive.
I like those two little sort of couch areas. Like as soon as you walk in, I like to sort of like tuck myself in the corner and sort of get a view of everything. But even the bar, the bar is super cool, and the details, I don't mean just because of the liquor that's served there, but the bar itself, in terms of the way it is designed, and even if you look at the taps and the valves, and there's, again, as someone who loves sort of seeking out the Easter eggs and the meaning behind things, you can see the inspiration that they pulled for the ship itself as well as from the film and the attraction.
Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time in that particular bar. That was because it's a smaller space and it was always packed. So it was kind of difficult to get in there for any length of time. So I walked in, I went back, I looked at the back of the bar, and I loved the poles, the tap poles. It was so neat to see the nautical theme on each of them. So they were very unique. And the back of the bar had some unique details. So I like how they utilize the IP in the space and makes it feel like its own unique area. Didn't spend enough time in there to really soak it in, but again, really well use of the design.
I don't know if they did it while, again, because this was a preview sailing and sometimes the venue was closed throughout the day. Like, I would love to hang here when they do trivia. Like, I think that's when it's really going to shine. And look, the world still spins and sports still happen. So when we were there one night, they had hockey on. I was like, oh, because there's one huge screen right in the middle and a lot of screens scattered throughout. I was like, oh, it's sort of taking me out of the environment, but I also understand as sports go, like that's what a lot of people are going to go there for too, so they don't miss some of the sporting events. And the other thing that I'm so upset that Becky, I'm going to sneak aboard with you. I didn't get to try any of the food, which looked amazing.
Yeah, we were really upset about that. They closed it early. And of course, the night is young when there was, what is that thing on social media? Like, no sleep, one bar, next bar. Like, that was us on this cruise. Like, we're hitting them all. And we went there, I think it was right at 10. And they were like, oh, the kitchen just closed. And I thought Lou was going to cry.
I mean, I eventually did cry, but it was in the privacy of my own stateroom.
Yeah, that was too bad. But the food looked amazing. That we did get to see. We had a little content opportunity where we could see it. We couldn't eat it, so it was just honestly, it was a little cruel. It was like, here is this beautiful, tasty food. Look at this burger. Doesn't it look delicious? Just take a photo. Don't eat it.
Don't touch these wings that look and smell delicious.
I didn't see what the menu was there, so can you please tell me a couple of things that were on it besides wings? We just picked that up.
So they have a huge soft pretzel, which looked amazing. The burger looked phenomenal. There was a buffalo, was it a buffalo wing dish? It really had a strong scent. It was super yummy, or it looked yummy. It was bar food, but kind of elevated bar food. But you could definitely go and get yourself something of substance. So in my opinion, especially if you've got, an early dinner, this is second dinner or supper or midnight snack, whatever you
This is why my feeling has always been you do dinner and then a show. I'm a dinner and a show kind of go. That's the sort of natural progression. Why do you ask, Mangello? I will explain. Because you do dinner and a show, and then you come out, and then you go to Periscope Pub, and you can have a little nosh and have some of the little bites. And then you go and you walk around a little bit, and you're like, ooh, I'm hungry again. Let's go to Festival of Foods on Deck 11. This pizza that they make to order, every single one is fresh, is open super late. Then, by the time you schlep all the way back to your stateroom, you're hungry again. Guess what? 24-hour room service is included, and if you don't get chicken tendies and fries, you are doing it wrong and a disservice to yourself. By the way, I was so looking forward to chicken tenders and fries, I never ordered it.
Never had time.
What? I was...
What?
I'm so sad and mad at myself. I broke my own cardinal rule.
You never leave a ship without, I have to leave early because I have to go order my chicken tendies in my room and be in my jammies. I've never heard you.
I got to the jammy. Becky, I was so tired. How tired was I? I was so tired I couldn't even stay. Because it's a lot. I mean, this is not a complaint. Wow. But you're going nonstop from 7 o'clock in the morning till...
But that's
we leave the Haunted Mansion
when you're there too. So when you're on board a Disney ship, you're doing the exact same thing because there's so much to see and do. So what's your excuse?
I have no excuse. I'm very upset. Now you're just making it worse. But yeah,
take pictures of it.
So it's not helpful at all. But I do want to go back and almost sort of have second dinner there because the menu did look. Really good. All right, we have a lot still to cover. I want to go back down to Deck 3. Just off the Grand Hall is Scat Cats, which replaces Nightingale on the Disney Wish. This is this very comfortably elegant, groovy, stylish, Aristocats-inspired lounge that as soon as you open that door, it feels like it is inspired by like that classic charm of like old style jazz clubs with nods to the Aristocats in this almost Parisian-like setting, and it's not an in-your-face Aristocats themed bar. It is super elegantly done, and I think, again, so smart. They move the spaces around. They now have this sort of quote-unquote almost outdoor seating area that now extends into the Grand Hall. This is such a great place for cocktails and conversations with this very fresh, very clean, yet comfortable, jazzy vibe where if you want to get together with friends, you can just sort of hang out and chat. Like we spent a little bit of time in there sampling 11 or 12 of the different, very unique cocktails that they had. I remember, Becky, we were working.
Science.
But science. But even there too, the bar menu is reflective of where you are, with a lot of unique, sort of almost experiential types of drinks as well.
How it was designed, I don't know about you guys, but I felt that it wasn't as stuffy as the lounge that's on the Wish. And maybe it's just the design elements or how it's put together or the outdoor seating. It just felt more casual and comfortable, yet in an elegant environment. And I thought that some of the cocktails that they created, especially the one with the smoke bubble, has just some unique interactive opportunities so that you get to know the bartenders, so you get to talk to the servers. It's just more casual and comfortable.
I totally agree. I think it felt a little more bistro-ish than stuffy maybe. I don't know if it made a difference to having it open up on one end because it's open to the Grand Hall. The noise level, there's more ambient noise. I remember going into Nightingale's on the Wish and feeling like, oh, I need to whisper, right? Like this feels like, oh, I can't like talk with my friend. You know, like there's a bit of a hush, and you're listening to the piano player, and you feel this was more like a jazzier vibe. The piano player is playing, and of course there's this beautiful grand piano in there that's so gorgeous, and there's paw prints on the grand piano that you see that represent the cats from Aristocats. And a fun little design thing, they were telling us that the paw prints are done in the pattern that they do when they do their choreography for Everybody Wants to Be a Cat. And so you can see the 3 cats, including Marie's little paw prints. Hers are the tiniest off to the side. It's just a cute little detail. But it was a lot more comfortable, and it is a place where you can actually go and talk. Whereas, not that you can't at Skipper Society or the Haunted Mansion Parlor, but the theming there is so much more, and a lot of times, especially if there's music at Skipper, it's a little bit louder.
Yeah, and I love, we're talking about Easter eggs, that on the poster outside, and again, some of the paw prints are inspired by the feline family of some of the cast and the crew, and even the menu too. So all of these locations, Skipper Society has themed cocktails. They also have a souvenir mug that is shaped like a Jungle Cruise boat. This has their own sort of experiential dining. There's something called the Cat's Meow, where you can, if you've seen online, there's this embossed cat glass that has the image of a cat on the bottom. But it is an experience. It is a $130 experience, which we did not participate in.
We did not. I didn't feel I needed a $130 cat cup, but it was really cute, and I'm sure it would be a conversation piece.
But what I loved in this, and I think this is sort of the hidden gem, they have a little tea bazaar. It's called a tea bazaar, and they have 3 different tea drinks. They have a matcha, hibiscus, and Earl Grey drink. Don't worry, Becca, they all include alcohol. I believe you can get them non-alcoholic as well. The matcha has Old Forester Statesman, matcha green tea, mint, live, agave. That is an experience. These are all experiences for 2 people, so you get this beautifully ornate teapot and these wonderful little cups. There's a hibiscus that has a 818 Reposado, and then I tried the Earl Grey, which is a Bombay Sapphire Premier with Earl Grey tea, liquor 43, and honey. which was lovely. It was such a nice way to almost end the evening before somebody dragged me back into the Haunted Mansion Parlor again.
Look, we have more things to figure out in that parlor. We had more things to do. But yes, it was actually pretty tasty too. But I love that it was for two.
Yeah. And they also have, and this is one of my favorite little surprises, they have something, they have a menu called Yes Jams, and there's 3 different jam-based drinks.
I didn't see that.
Of course you didn't. There's a strawberry jam that has Tanqueray and strawberry bonbon and strawberry and lime. A grape jam that has screwball peanut butter whiskey, Great Jones rye, and grape bonbon. And then a fig jam with rum and fig jam letter ginger beer. I tried the grape jam drink because research. You're welcome.
Science.
And I saw peanut butter and grape jelly. And get this. Guess what's on the rim? Guess what they serve on the rim? You get an Uncrustable.
It's essentially an Uncrustable. It is. I mean, it's an elevated Uncrustable, if you will.
It's Uncrustable inspired. But
I'm never getting my husband out of that lounge, clearly. So yes,
it was just such this nice little touch of childhood whimsy on top, and I'm like, that's it. Yeah. Those are the little things that they do that makes just a regular cocktail something fun and unexpected.
Yeah, and I love those types of touches because it draws you to that venue. It's like somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I just had a drink with an Uncrustable on it," and everybody's got to go check it out. So you've got to, your Instagrammable moments there. You've got to have your cocktail with your Uncrustable, so your childhood meets your adulthood, and there you go.
Yeah. And the pianist, just low, lovely, sometimes some park and movie-inspired music. That is a really nice place if you want to have just a very, very relaxing night. I want to mention the Rose. I never got up there. There's a lot of places I never got to see. The Rose, which is just at the entrance of Palo Steakhouse and Enchanté, both of which I did not get a chance to see, up on Deck 13, I believe is pretty close to the Wish.
It's pretty much exactly the same, for the exception of the Rose. The Rose is different in the Underglass, so I'm not going to spoil that for anybody, but pay attention because it is different than it is on the Wish.
Okay, so there's no other lounges to talk about. We'll just move on. All right. We could do a show about the Haunted Mansion Parlor. Yes. And I want to preface this by saying anything that we say, and if anything that you've seen in photos or videos, and this is not me being hyperbolic, it cannot convey what this is. I had heard from people who were on the crossing as it came over how amazing this was, and I'm like, that's fine, it's it's what you say, but this is, and correct me if you disagree, the single greatest storytelling and placemaking Disney has done anywhere, period. Because anywhere. And I will tell you why. Because there are other places we go that are inspired by attractions. They are inspired by films. You tell me that you walked into that parlor and did not feel like you were sitting in the Haunted Mansion itself, or it was a piece of the Haunted Mansion was picked up and put into that ship. You forget that you were on a ship. You forget that you were in... I felt as though even the furnishings and the walls and the paper, and we'll talk about the atmosphere itself, but I really believe, you want to talk about setting a new standard and a new, no pun intended, bar for what we're going to get with the Pirates-inspired lounge on the Disney Destiny. But man, I'm telling you, Disney, you have now set expectations at such a high level, and I mean this in the best possible way, because there's a reason why we kept going back, and there's a reason why we did not want to leave, because where you sit throughout the night gives you a different experience. There are 8 different sort of show scenes that are played throughout, but if you could see me, I would stand up and applaud the Imagineering team that put that together, because I think it is beyond exceptional.
Yeah, it does. I totally agree. It feels like you were in the queue to Haunted Mansion, you were getting ready to ride the ride, and they said, actually, just wait a moment. We're going to have you step into this room off the side here. Wait a few minutes, have a drink, and we'll bring you back on for the ride. And that was the parlor. That's how it feels to me. I think that most of the time when we see things that Disney does, because we're all theme park nerds and we do a lot, we see a lot, so we always have critiques and feedback and things. Everyone that I was here was just like, literally no notes, which is so rare to have people that, you know, always have notes on everything. To me, it felt like they let the creative people shine. They got out of the way of whatever. There was no budget constraints. There was no time issues. They had the time. They had the resources. They just said, go ham on this space. Anything you can think of, do it. And they let their creativity fly.
That was my immediate reaction, too, is that when I walked in, first of all, the hallway itself, before you even get in, is spectacular. And I had to wait out there for quite a while, so we were all taking turns having people go in and taking pictures just in the hallway before you even get to the door. But once you walk in, the first thing that hit my mind was, is this a Tokyo Disney Sea thing where somebody was given a good-sized budget to actually pull off what it really should be? I was seated, I was only able to go in once because it was a very busy spot. Sat right across from the fish tank and sat and watched the things that were appearing and disappearing in that fish tank, which was amazing. Walked around, looked at some of the things were occurring, sat in one side and realized that it looked different than where I was sitting from, knowing that I had to eventually come back and go sit in that other seat because I want to see what's going on the other side. You want to sit in a particular chair to get your picture taken, so whoever's sitting there, you better buy them a drink. And then to look up and all of a sudden to hear the familiar music and the familiar voice that you hear on the attractions, and all of a sudden Madame Leota is right there, just floating above you. And yes, it is stunning. It is amazing. They've done masterful work here. And we haven't even talked about the cocktails.
Because the cocktails aren't the star.
Right.
Like, here, the placemaking is the star because, again, where you sit, the audio is going to be different. Mm-hmm. What you see is going to be different. The Imagineer said, and again, there's a story that is unfolding that you don't necessarily realize until you start to think and look more. Much like the queue of the Haunted Mansion, there's like a little murder mystery that you can solve. And there's a story of the sea captain. There's a story of the bride. And different elements, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but different elements throughout the room and throughout the night will change and come to life. And you can start to piece these things together. And it was interesting to watch as people were starting to figure this out, bouncing around, trying to sort of figure out, well, where is this thing? I'm waiting. And because there's 8 different sequences that rotate randomly and they run about a half hour each, you're not going to see them all. And I think that's not a bad thing. I think that's because there's a re-rideability factor to the Haunted Mansion Parlor that, and look, the Hyperspace Lounge is a wonderful space, but it does not have this in any way, shape, or form. I think after your 45 minutes in the Hyperspace Lounge, you've seen it, you've watched all the things on the screen, you're ready to move on. Here, you know, you don't want to leave. And yes, there's going to be that 45-minute limit, but it's, in the best possible sense, is this wonderful sensory overload because you're just trying to take it all in and then eventually get to part of the reason why you're there, which is to experience some of the cocktails and drinks too.
Again, the beauty of this is you're on the ship for a week. So you're going to be able to try this more than once, and it's worth prioritizing. So we sacrifice sleep. Look, they stayed open on our cruise till 12:30. I'm assuming it'll be the same, you know, probably around there. Just do it. Even if you're tired, wait it out. If you needed to wait till it gets a little later before the crowds go, it was so worth it. We closed it down twice, and I have zero.
I gave up chicken. Becky, yes. I gave up chicken tendy time 2 nights in a row.
Yes, we were headed up at like 1 a.m. on a school night, like. But that's how it was worth it because, you know, if I have to do that, that's worth it to me to experience a space with very little people where I could sort of bop around to different places and like get a sense of the theming and stuff because it was worth it. So if you're going on the treasure for a week, which, as you can tell, we would all strongly recommend that you do, make sure to prioritize that. Plan a couple of times where you can go and just sort of vibe in there and observe all the different things, because it's honestly so worth it.
And if that wasn't enough, and you don't have enough to look at, and if you are so engaged in what's happening around you, you might forget that there's a secret menu there too. Mm-hmm. And we just accidentally happened upon it because we turned something the right way and found it, and it was just like, oh my gosh, you got to sit and do this, and totally forgot about what was going on around us, and then discovered that secret menu, which is, if there's two of you, you've got to do it. You've absolutely got to do it. So I think that
it's a puzzle you get to solve, and again, it's that interactive, fun layer that they add onto it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about this ship. Is you've said it a few times, there's layers here. There's layers to peel in every direction, no matter in the Haunted Mansion Lounge or on the ship itself. There are discoveries, there's adventures on this ship. And you just have to take the time, and you need 7 days to experience all of these adventures and the layers of the onion that is presented to you. And the Haunted Mansion is definitely a place that, if there are 8 of them, you only get to spend 45 minutes in there. You're probably going to have to go 8 times. And you might not be able to still see them all, which I think is very cool because, again, the rewritable factor, I think it's great. I'm going to be mad when I get off in 7 days and not see them all. Or like when you get on Guardians and World, it's like, I got the same music every single time that I've been on. But I'm looking forward to that discovery.
Mm-hmm. Girl, you could spend 7 days of your 7-day cruiser and still not see or drink all of it. And what I love too about this is, in addition to the fun inspired drinks that all come in different, almost like themed glasses, you can also get them in non-alcoholic versions. Yeah. And there's not one but 2 souvenir mugs. There's a final vow. Who cares what's in it? Yeah. It's all about the mug. And that is the Captain's Bride ceramic tiki rug. And then the last catch is served in the Souvenir Mariner ceramic tiki mug. I am not a merch person. I'm not a sweets guy. Alas, I ended up with one of each, which I got them for a charity auction. But they also had, they have sodas. They have themed spirit-free bottled soda potions. This is the best value souvenir on the ship. They're $5 each. There are 4 different ones. There's a Grim Grinning Grape, Screaming Soda, Sour Shivers Lemonade, and a Creepy Crawly Cola that you can purchase and stay sealed, which I also did for our charity auction. But as you swirl them around, they look like, something out of Becky's Cauldron.
It was like a potion.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. It was right there.
Well, you'll get yours.
Yeah, I love the souvenir mugs. If you're at all a fan of going to Trader Sam's and the sort of souvenir cups that you can get with the fancy cocktails that they have, then you're going to eat this one up. It's so cool. They were $60. That includes with the drink, and then they package it up for you to bring it home. They're really heavy, well made. There's also tons of details on the mugs themselves. So they're full of just more sort of clues about the storyline, especially the bride one has clues with the storyline of the whole parlor, which again is so cool. Also, if you've seen the Haunted Mansion movie, the recent one with Rosario Dawson and whoever else is in it, I don't know. Doesn't matter. But
Danny DeVito's crying right now.
Oh, I do love Danny DeVito. They have the Mariner in there as part of the story as one of the ghosts, and that's the one that's on one of these mugs. And there's clues on the mug or cup, whatever you call it, as to how he died as well. And so it's so good.
Well, any menu that has eyeball gummies on it is a win. So I think that the spirit-free ones, that's fun. And to sit in the Screaming Soda was really good. I tried that. But I kept looking at the Ghoulish Delight, which is the one with the eyeball gummies. I'm definitely getting that next time. Yeah.
And I love how everything is all it's all connected. Even so, the paintings on the wall, right? So you're sort of obviously used to the portrait gallery as you're riding through the Haunted Mansion in any of the Haunted Mansions. There's a portrait gallery here, but they don't just have one single effect. Depending on the rotation of the story element that's going on, they might melt, they might sing, they might do, and it's just I cannot say enough good things. It is brilliantly done. And Becky, you sort of looked at me funny when I said it is the single greatest space making and storytelling location I think Disney has done anywhere. I you know what? I will die on that hill.
Well, I have to... That's,
at least right now.
Because obviously that took me back to things like Tokyo Disney Sea, where we've been in some really amazing immersive stories there. So if you look at those rides, I think the compliment is that a small lounge holds up to an e-ticket ride. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really the story there.
Yeah, it is. I think the Haunted Mansion Parlor is an attraction.
Yeah.
It is absolutely an attraction.
It's too small.
But I think the size
it
plays. I think right. I think it plays to the strengths of it because it does feel intimate. And if it was a larger venue, I'm happy the Skipper Society was not themed to Haunted because it wouldn't play. It wouldn't work there because this feels like a parlor in an old, Gothic, Victorian, whatever it is, mansion. Like, if I wasn't holding the recorder, I'd be applauding right now because. I was absolutely blown away.
And it's going to also be on the Destiny, which is the next ship. And I initially was like, I never repeat things. I always like them to do new things on the different ships. But now that I've seen how good it is, I'm kind of glad because it allows more people to experience it. And it's something that I think people will be booking a ship for this experience, and they would not be wrong to do that.
And I think it's going to be the only place that you're going to have this type of experience. So the pirate-themed lounge that's coming to Adventureland here in Walt Disney World, I would love it to, but I don't know that would rise to this type of level because I don't think it's meant to be a similar experience. But this is the standard by which all other lounges will be judged.
But that's the thing. After they've come up with something like this, the bar is sitting there, and I almost expect the next thing to have these types of elements. Otherwise, it becomes, what are you guys doing? You have this technology. You have this ability. You've got this amazing IP and this wonderful story to work with. Give us this.
Right. They're all sitting in Imagineering and go, uh-oh. No. Now what do we do? Well, because think about it, what other attractions and franchises, because there's something about the mansion that resonates in all of us. Right. I talked about emotional connections, like we are emotionally... you might not be able to do that with Stitch's Supersonic Celebration, whatever it is. So, what is that next sort of, how do you sort of dial up a little more from here? I don't know, but...
And you're always limited with parks, too, in terms of, you're just talking about many, many thousands of people coming to those parks. So, look at Trader Sam's and how hard it is to visit, right? Like getting in and getting a spot can be really challenging. And although this can be tricky because sometimes you might come and it might be full, you're still in a closed space with a certain amount of people. Everybody's going to get to cycle through that at least once on their cruise.
And you might not, and because we're going to get to this next, an argument could be made, whoa, do I forego a nighttime Walt Disney Theater show to try and get some time in the Haunted Mansion Parlor?
Or dinner.
I would say maybe with a huge asterisk.
Yeah, that's actually my strategy. There was one that I've seen on a different ship, and I waited into that little lull where either people are at the show or at dinner, and that's when I went, and there was still a line. And again, granted, and I don't want to discourage people, but our sailings only had about 1,500 people on them, and these ships hold a max of 4,000. It never gets to 4,000. That means every single bunk that can be filled is being filled. But still, that's a lot of people, to your point, but it's a small space. So you might have to be strategic about... Or stay up really late to try to get in. But still, there's no guarantee at that point either. So you might have to think about what your priorities are going to be. And I would definitely put this at the top of the list.
And I think we're also we're subtly acknowledging the experience that we had is one that is unique, and it was a gift and a privilege to be able to be there. the reason why we spent so much time there, we kept on, like, this is never going to happen again, right? We'll never see it this empty again. So we wanted to sort of take as much advantage, but spend as much time as you possibly. I don't need to tell you this. Once you see it once, you're not going to want to leave. And be sure to take your time as you walk past the mirror in the hallway on the way in.
Yes, on
just,
the way out.
just. So, all right, we're talking about this is an entertainment venue first and a lounge second, right? The drinking and all that for most of us, Becky, was tertiary to the experience.
I don't know, it sounds like you kind of went along my train of thought.
I am a researcher.
We were thorough in our exploration of the Haunted Mansion Parlor. I will say that we there was no stone or drink left unturned, or drink or whatever.
Hence the elf incident in the elevator. Anyways.
Wow. All right, move on, because otherwise I'm going to make you tell this. Tell the story.
So a number of us were going up to. They literally were like.
Did you pretend to see an elf in
the lights? No. So literally, like it's automatic. The lights go up. Like it's like being it's being at Hunka Bunka Ballroom or your favorite club in the city. The lights go up at 1:00 and it's time to go. So as we were going back to our respective staterooms, I was on deck 6. Some of the other people in the elevator were on higher decks. And as I walked out, as I was leaving, I said, just so you know, Elf is my favorite movie, and I hit all the buttons and ran out.
He did. Well, first, I think this was payment because we made you dance in a video in the elevator, which was completely against his will.
We have a video.
Yes.
That phone is now at the bottom of the ocean, by the way. So.
With the old lady's jewels, yeah. No, we did make him, and then I think in slight retaliation, you put all the elevator buttons and immediately left the elevator, which honestly was hilarious.
6?
Yes, Becky. Some of us actually stay on staterooms that have single digits.
No, are you 6 as in your age?
Years old.
No, I'm more like 5, but it's fine. I'm a 5-year-old kid trapped in a slightly older body. Let's go back to the entertainment venues.
Sure, let's do that.
The Walt Disney Theater.
We got to talk about.
We need to talk about Walt Disney Theater, as well as there's Luna on the Wish, the Sarabi, which is very much going to need its own little discussion. But when we start talking about the Walt Disney Theater,
we're going there first. I thought we were going to go back to the good.
What am I doing?
Sarabi?
You want to go to Sarabi first?
Just really quick.
Okay. Serena literally just gave me puppy dog eyes. Like, can we please talk about Sarabi? So let's start with the Walt Disney Theater. So there are Seize the Adventures, which is the opening night show, which I will tell you, I've seen Golden Mickey's. I love Seize the Adventure. I love Seize the Adventure. It's slightly tweaked from the Disney Wish. There's also Beauty and the Beast. Again, stand out, also slightly tweaked from the Disney Wish, but new is The Tale of Moana, which, when we're talking about sort of the holy trinity of things you need to see, it's Coco, it's the Mansion Parlor, and there's The Tale of Moana. We talk about Disney Cruise Line shows in the Walt Disney Theater being quote-unquote Broadway quality. This feels like you are sitting in a Broadway theater. From the second you walk in, it is innovative, it is heartwarming, it is authentic, it is full of practical, quote-unquote, low-tech, no-tech, yet elaborate effects. The puppets are from the Lion King on Broadway team. It is authentic from a cultural perspective, a lot of Hawaiian and Pacific Island cultural influences, as well as cast, very diverse cast, moving performances, very strong cast, very, very strong, very, very strong cast. And we talk about forgetting that you're at sea. I come from a little bit of a theater background. The stage and the background, the backstage areas on a ship are very, very small. They're very narrow. And there's other sets that are sitting back there, right? It's not like a single show's going on. Right. The backstage crew is not doing a singular job like the other crew. They're spinning a lot of plates and doing multiple jobs. When the lights came up this is a true story. I wiped away my tears and I said, run it again.
Yeah.
Like, I need to see this. And from there, I picked up my phone and I texted my daughter, who's studying theater production and stage management up at school. I'm like, you need to come on the ship just to see this performance.
So for me, I too come from a theatrical background, and I understand the space that is necessary for what they pull off. And this is the first show. While I've always said Broadway-style shows, fine, but I also know that Beauty and the Beast on Broadway is different than Beauty and the Beast on the ship, just basically because you have to pare things down because of the space that's available. This show is the first show that I've seen on a ship that you could pick up and put on Broadway and without changing a single thing, and it would be wildly successful. You would not need to elevate anything in it to make it more appealing or more grand. The effects themselves and the puppetry was stunning, and how the changeovers went between characters and things. I was speechless with some of them. And I was watching, when I watch a show, because of what I used to do, I don't really watch the main character. I'm watching the things that are happening in the background. How are they moving this, and how is this going there, and how is this lighting changing? And there were things that I was going, how? How did they do that in that space?
I still don't know how 8-year-old Moana became teenage Moana. I don't want to know, but it's sorcery.
Yes, and there's a moment. I'm not going to spoil this. There was a moment that there was so many times I got emotional during this show, and at one point it took me from an emotional point of view to pure 6-year-old joy. And when that occurred, I was in a whole different world. I was giggling and I was laughing, and everyone around me was giggling and laughing, and the things that were happening on the stage and the music, and you were drawn in, and I totally forgot I was on a ship. And the talent level, Moana, bring that note again. The way that she could control and belt and hitting all of those amazing notes, I think this is probably the best show that I have seen on any ship, anywhere, and probably even pulls up to many of the Broadway performances that I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. I was emotionally wrecked after this. Like, I felt like I had been... They took you into this world culturally, figuratively. You were transported from the very first notes. The music, of course, is stunning. It's one of Moana's biggest strengths, is the music and the soundtrack. But they went so far beyond it, and it was really the testament to the performances, because you were pulled into this journey. You were on this journey with her, and everyone was. And so that the emotional connection that you had, all I can tell you is that, to me, just like you said, if you're listening to this, hear that there's this golden trilogy here on the Treasure: the Coco Dinner, the Haunted Mansion Parlor, and the Tale of Moana show, that are singularly alone, just those three things, if you did nothing else, would be worth the price of your cruise.
Yes. And I personally, what I'm going to do on this 7 day, that night, I'm not going to dinner. I'm going to see that show twice. I am going to go and see it 2 times, and I'll go up to Deck 11 and get pizza that night or something, because I think it is that stunning, and I want to see it again and again and again. And what got in my eye? It was just the little fog. The fog got in my eye.
Fog bubbles. The little fog bubbles.
Yes. That's that. I mean, there's so many really cool moments that just make you... That drew you into this, like you said, you're a villager when you're there. You're not sitting in a theatrical seat. You're sitting in the village. You're watching all this happen around you. And I loved every single minute of that show.
And I love there are sort of directorial and character choices that make it just slightly different enough from the film that it is a new experience. One of the things I love, and I'll admit, I don't love the shiny sequence in the film.
I know you don't. I thought of you the entire time when I was watching that.
I think it's disruptive. I just don't think it fits. Here, Tamatoa is this bold disco diva
Cabaret.
twist.
Like a cabaret, yeah.
And
kind of reminded me of Ursula in a way, and just a uplifted version of her in a cabaret type of
and
feel.
there's two aspects to this, right? Well, there's three. So there's the music, there's the performer, and then there is the puppet, which is this. Puppet is the wrong word to use. Tamatoa takes over the stage. It is incredible. That is maneuvered by the performers.
Yeah.
This was, when we saw it, it was a female performer. I love the fact that it's been arranged two ways for both a male and a female performer, with that little bit of a twist on that arrangement. I love that the familiar songs that are there. There's also a deleted song called Warrior Face from the film that was not included. So there are things that are added. There are things that are not there that you don't miss.
You don't.
You don't miss those. Okay, well, spoiler alert.
Sorry, I said it. You like to put a microphone in my face, so that's why I said because at first I was thinking, well, how are they going to do Hey? And they didn't. But I didn't miss it. It wasn't something, because there's so much else that's going on in the story that you don't need that distraction.
No.
And I'm not the kind of person, I love live theater. There's nothing else like it. And this, even if you're not a live theater person, there's an energy in here that's just, but if you said, hey Lou, let's go see some interpretive dance, I'm probably not going to go running out to my car. But here, the interpretive choreography that brings not just a kinetic element, but life and soul into inanimate objects like waves and shadows was incredibly well done. Mm-hmm. And the puppetry from Baby Moana to Maui's shape-shifting, and that 13-foot Taka puppet that transforms into Tafiti. You want to talk about worth the price of admission? Just to see that happen is incredible.
Having that kind of change in such a simple form and doesn't take up a lot of space. And again, they had to be amazingly creative to pull that type of shift off. And it was, again, just stunning.
It's lavish visuals, cultural authenticity, tributes to the original film, incredible effects, Dolby Atmos in the close your eyes and just listen in that. The dance, the puppetry, again, the diversity and the authenticity of the cast. We're talking about reasons to take a Disney Treasure cruise. This alone is one of those reasons. Especially if you love live theater. Again, I don't think we're over exaggerating. It's that good.
It is that good. And there's a lot that they did with the casting here, because a lot of times, so, you go on these cruises and when you have 3 shows on the ship, you can see, okay, this person was, she was Jasmine and now she's Mulan, right? And we're getting a little, we're getting a couple of characters out of this one performer, right? This requires a whole cast of people that you couldn't then just throw into a background of Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella. They were cast, they spent a lot on the cast and the talent that they used for this, and it really shows. We're not overstating this to say that this needs to be a priority when you're on the ship, but also I agree, see it twice if you are a big theater nerd and you're going to love it. Because think about it, we went to see Broadway, we went to Wicked on Broadway a couple months ago, and I want to say the tickets were $250 a piece. That wasn't even that, it wasn't even the greatest seats. But, Broadway, you spend a lot to go there. So there's tremendous value that you're getting here from these shows in general. But this one is very special. From the moment you enter, you're going to be aware, wow, I was carried on a very special journey, and this was really something I'm going to always remember.
When you have the characters Moana was out of this world, amazing. Maui did a great job, but Grandma
Tala.
She was the star to me, and how she's told the story. She's your narrator pretty much through the entire thing.
I just wanted to give her a hug.
I know. Every moment she came,
and then take her home.
Every moment that she came forward, or in her alter ego that goes around you. tears. It was so emotionally pulling every time she would show up. And that performer, she is out of this world amazing. And for those of you who get to see her, because obviously these guys are all on contracts and they'll roll off and they'll bring other people, it's almost like seeing the original production of a Broadway show. We'll never forget these people that we saw.
And to be clear, some of the performers have been on Broadway.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Were part of the original cast of Cats and have made Broadway runs, and you can see that in their performances.
We got to meet the star of Moana that plays Moana in the show, which was amazing. We got to see the puppet and the canoe, which was incredible. I cried when I met her. So embarrassing.
I have video of Serena crying as she met her.
It was so embarrassing, but I was just telling her how special her performance was, and I got emotional talking to her because I was just like, she's so vulnerable. I don't know how you... I'm just in awe of that level of talent.
It is so hard to sing at that level and show that emotion at the same time. And when you're bouncing off of a catamaran and you've got an eagle flying over your head and you've got this going on, to still emote that passion. I mean, seriously, it is Broadway level performance.
And I think the reaction of the crowd, like I've never heard applause like that before in the Walt Disney Theater, and it was absolutely well deserved. Every single person around me was just like screaming and applauding, and there was a lot of tears.
It's like we all shared something, you know? It was a moment.
I'm looking. I really.
I know. That was the one. I know. Haunted Mansion was something, but this was the one I really wanted to talk about because, again, it was that spectacular.
But that's what I said at the very beginning, right? I was trying to set, pardon the pun, the stage for there are emotional connections that we're having to each of these things. We had an emotional reaction to Coco, a different type of feeling that we have when we go into the Haunted Mansion Parlor. And truly an outpouring of emotion here. And I think, there's this sort of, we're talking about these common threads. There's this common thread of family that goes from Coco to Moana. And I said it on board, if you're traveling with family, however you define your family, like I think you come out of this show, you come out of Coco and you're sort of hugging them a little bit tighter when you do. And I think that's a testament to every single aspect, from on stage to backstage. I almost feel bad talking about Sarabi after this.
That's why I almost wanted to do it ahead of time, but you wouldn't let me produce this one.
We got too excited. So Sarabi is the two-story entertainment venue for a lot of different events and shows, which is the sort of sister space to Luna on the Disney Wish. Here it is obviously Lion King inspired, and we only saw a very small portion of what the 7-day schedule was going to look like. But somebody I knew, Shoreside, texted me and was like, do not miss Choose Wisely at the Sarabi Supper Club. And I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. It sounds Indiana Jonesy, and it is. It is an Indiana Jones adventure for guests 18 years of older and older. This does happen at night, where I almost don't know how to describe this, but I want to start off, there are two storytellers that who are according to story, huge Indiana Jones fans, and when the Sarabi Supper Club scheduled performers fail to show, they step in and are reenacting highlights from the 4 good Indiana Jones films, and you can insert the whatever for the last one. It is participatory with the audience as the story unfolds, making every show is going to be unique. There is sort of a pre-show with an incredible jazz singer. And when I say it's for adults only, I mean, there's nothing bad, there's no profanity, right? I mean, there may be some playful innuendo, but nothing else. But the storytellers, Coriander and Sage, who we see not just in Choose Wisely, but in the Jungle Cruise thing that you participated in, the Grand Hall, and a number of other locations, they provided this cohesive presence and narrative throughout R3, and I'm assuming the 7-day voyage. They too were exceptional at what they did.
Yeah, they were so good, and they're like your hosts. They feel like they're the hosts of the cruise, and I can only imagine after having a week with them how much you would get to enjoy the various programming that they do. They are listed in the Navigator, so if you see some of these things pop up, if you go into the description, it says Coriander and Sage. So if you see them listed in your Navigator, go.
Yeah, definitely worth it. And the venue itself, too, I noticed they made a couple of changes. One thing is on the downstairs area, remember, where all those were open. So it almost felt like everything was exposed to everybody, and it was distracting and people walking away. This time they've enclosed those, so I think that lends itself to
curtains that come up and down. So.
Yeah, so it lends itself to these types of performances, so you're not distracted by people walking by every 2 seconds. So I do think that was an improvement in this venue. There are some other things that kind of bother me still about the design of this one. I wish that this is something they would change. Hello, Destiny. But all in all, I feel that this is yet another one of those entertainment values that they're bringing that does not exist on the Wish.
I think I know, and I'll say if you're referring to what I think because it's 2 stories and there is sort of that perimeter seating up on the second level, while it does afford additional seating, depending on what you're going for, there is a bit of a disconnect, right? There's a physical and sort of a disconnect from what's happening. However, if you do look, some people want to be more passive observers. You very much can be that from that second level. Right. Now, that being said, I know exactly what you're thinking, and I know when you take your full voyage this week, BB11 is going to be the focus of your time in Sarabi, because bingo there is going to be a lot of fun, as always says.
Yeah, the thing that drives me crazy about that venue is that if you're upstairs and you see your family members downstairs, to get to each other, there's no stairs. So you have to get up, you have to walk out of the venue, you have to walk half the length of, or seems like half the length of the ship, to go find a staircase, to go down the stairs, to go all the way back the other direction to go into the venue again.
When Becky looks at her watch, she's trying to minimize the number of steps that she has to take.
No, it's so true.
But I mean, if you had your family, you're like, I'm here, but you didn't tell them what deck, and you're trying to connect to people. I mean, it's just a little inconvenient. If you're all in one venue, it should be easier to get from one floor to the other.
Why'd you ditch your family in the first place?
I was by myself on this one, so I was not ditching.
We know
anybody.
exactly where Becky was. Blah, 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 blah.
No, I totally agree, and that's kind of the.
Stop hitting me!
She just smacked him, so y'all can be glad about that.
Violence is not what? Wait a minute.
No, I totally agree, and that's kind of the design flaws with the Wish. There's no central elevator isn't there. Some of the connection things, especially on the upper decks, some things that there's blocks where you can't get from one side to the other. You're forced to go up or down a floor to get to it. So navigation can be tricky on this ship. It just doesn't flow quite as good as I feel the Dream and the Fantasy do personally. But in general, I feel like some of those things didn't seem as glaring as on this ship. And again, having more time. I felt like every time I'm on the Wish, I'm also very navigational challenged. So I will say that I never know where I am, and I'm always lost. But just about the time I'm like remembering where I am and figuring out the flow, I'm getting off the ship. And even though I've been multiple times, I start back from the beginning every time. I don't know if that's just me, but having a week, you'll actually know where you're going.
Hopefully. Well, we'll see. We'll test that theory. The other thing, I mean, let's just hit the last of the negative things that I have that I was hoping that they would do something with. The adults only area in the back is still small. Yeah. It's still really, really too small for having 4,000 people on board, and we even only having 1,800. It was packed back there, and there was nowhere to go sit. There was nowhere to go enjoy that beverage away from the kids if that's what you wanted to do. So that was still one of the glaring things that I was missing on this particular ship.
Yeah, we talked about it on the Wish. I think it's one of those things that when you're designing a space, in theory, having smaller, more intimate spaces sounds like it's a good thing. But then when you actually get human beings in there and you're starting to see what the flow is and where their preferences are, things don't necessarily always work the way that they look on a design.
And I think, as we talked about on the Wish, that they overcorrected and quite honestly, because they had the other ships that have massive big spaces, and you can understand where they're thinking, if we had a little bit, if we divided that one in half, then maybe we could do more things and have more variety that would appeal to more people. But when they went too far, they overcorrected, and there were way too many teeny small spaces and not enough a bit larger. And I mean, not just for groups, which is how we look at it, but literally trivia, you're going to have to get there early to make sure you have a seat. And those are the types of challenges. So if you are used to being on the Fantasy or the Dream or even the older ships, there are bigger spaces for that. So you're going to have to plan accordingly and plan a little bit better on your time to make sure if it's one of those smaller venues, you get there plenty of time to get a seat so you can enjoy.
I want to wrap up a couple of other things that are, I think, for the most part, the same. For pools and recreation, the family pools, adult exclusive areas are, for the most part, exactly the same. The Aquamouse is different in terms of it's now called the Curse of the Golden Egg, which has a different storyline versus the Wish. Both ships have the Oceaneer Club, Lab, Edge, and Vibe. Again, pretty similar. I still think that I love the Imagineering space. I absolutely what the Star Wars bay there is what the Hyperspace Lounge I wish was on the Wish. And again, there's the Edge is sort of a New York inspired theme, and Vibe is more of a Parisian style theme. A lot of cool, funky pop art. Let's talk about the staterooms and the design here. Like the Wish, they are each individually themed. I think I know, Serena, you said you have sort of a list of all the different cabins and the different themings, but very modern, relatively neutral with some thematic art that I think nicely contrasts some of the more bolder nautical designs of the other ships. I do think it is much more refined. I think they've updated a lot of designs. I know some people are very happy to see that there's a lot more outlets. There's a lot more USB and USB-C. I know you found an issue in terms of you had a plug that sort of has a brick that wasn't able to fit in.
Yeah, so if you're a lady specifically who have very thick hair.
This hair doesn't happen by itself.
I've seen how much hair product you have to lug around for that. If you have really thick hair, you know that you have to have a blow dryer that is going to actually dry your hair. And most hotels and ships go cheap on that so that they can just have a blow dryer in there. But the outlet is up against the wall on the side of the mirror, and it's oriented so much so that you can't plug in the 3-prong brick style plug. So they do have a 220 hair dryer that you can use that is easily to plug in. But if you have your own hair dryer, just know that if it's one of those plugs, you're probably not going to be able to plug it in. Bring a 220 version, which that's an easy plug to go. That was difficult. And then there was only one regular USB port next to the bed. All the rest are USB-Cs. And
it's 2020. It's 2024. Just so
but there's still people that have USB plugs.
Okay, so, Grandma.
Wow.
Yeah, some of the. He's throwing some serious shade here.
Becky's flip phone still needs.
Oh my God.
Yeah, some of the different room themes, you have, each floor has a little bit different ones. There's Aladdin, Pocahontas.
What'd you have? I had Aladdin.
I had Nemo.
I had Up.
You had who?
Oh,
Up?
yeah.
Oh, nice.
Up. I think there was Encanto, right? Wasn't that? There's a couple different ones on each ship, and you don't really know what you're going to get necessarily, but I like the fact that they're a little different. You're also going to have the artwork is going to be like the main thing that's different. So your room itself and the layouts don't change. It's just you're going to have a certain 2 pieces of themed artwork that are going to be to whatever movie.
Yeah, and I felt that, and again, there's different, obviously, categories of staterooms, but I felt it was brighter. I felt it was more open. I felt like I had sort of more room to move around. I love the fact that the beds are... I felt that there was a ton more storage in here. I had that extra storage unit next to my balcony. I had a whole extra storage. Did yours have it too?
Yeah, you didn't have that cabinet. It was like a storage cabinet. On the, I don't know if it was maybe the category of room. We had, I think, the deluxe veranda family.
Oh yeah, if you have the family, then that's the thing. It's like a category 4. Those the 4s. Those are family. So that has usually about 30 square feet larger size. So you would have a pull down on the side and then a cabinet. Yeah. So those of us that weren't in luxurious accommodations,
she was in like the Bagheera suite. So yeah.
No. That doesn't happen. So you just have the top that runs all the way over to the sliding glass door.
And like the Wish, like 75% of the staterooms have ocean view balcony, right?
Yeah, approximately that. I haven't seen the exact number, but that would seem correct. So the for me, the storage there still isn't enough storage in those, because if you have 4
how much
people,
stuff do you bring with you?
If you have 4 people, I mean, there's like 3 drawers that you can work with in the one that I was in.
I have 2 words for you. They're going to change your lives forever. Use my affiliate link. Packing cubes.
Packing cubes. But you can't put them on the floor. I mean,
Becky brings like have you ever seen Spaceballs? You ever see the hair dryer in Spaceballs? That's what Becky's bringing with her.
Well, of course, it's close, but not really. But I think that they could utilize or put a little bit more drawer space in there. So when you first walk in, you've got the 2 cabinets on the right, the closets on the right. And only one side of that has a couple of drawers where the safe is. If the other one, if they had a few more drawers in there, that would solve the problem.
I agree. I think storage is always tricky, especially if you have multiple people there. If you have multiple women, forget it.
Yes.
Forget about it.
Because then there's
Serena also did around 11 costume changes a day. Like I would turn the corner and all of a sudden she'd be in a different outfit. I'm like,
again, that's what we do. You have to have different shoes, and you have to have different dresses, and you have to have different stuff. So
I'm moving on.
Okay.
There are also, of note, 2 sort of variations of suites that bear mentioning. So like the Wish, the concierge lounge and level and number of concierge rooms is much higher than on the Dream and Classic ship size. Here, like the Wish, there are 2 2-story royal suites, the Bagheera suite, obviously inspired by Jungle Book, and the Raja suite, inspired by the tiger from Aladdin. And there's, of course, the funnel suite, which is affectionately known as the Tomorrow Tower suite, inspired by Epcot's World Discovery. So a lot of futuristic decor, metal and glass accents. There is only one. It's about 2,000 square feet, so it's huge, and you can comfortably sleep up to 8 guests. Again, like the parks, I love the fact that it draws heavily from Epcot, specifically World Discovery. So you see that in the art pieces and those like molten metal accents and the colorful glass elements. Really gives a sense of a more futuristic type ambiance. There's also very clear, and I like the fact that they did this, there are clear tributes. So a sculpture that is inspired by Spaceship Earth that comes to light with music and lights. I love the fact that there is figment in there, not in sort of just a subtle reference or a constellation, but you can find him throughout the suite. So there's a little bit of that whimsical element. There's a little bit of nostalgia in there, and there's 2 bedrooms, 4.5 bathrooms, living area, dining area. There's also private elevator that ensures convenience and privacy. And I think in keeping with the futuristic theme, there's a lot of sort of state-of-the-art technology and elements in there too. And one of the improvements that they made from the Wish is now you have your sort of magic button which will automatically frost all of the glass anywhere, including what faces I don't know, I can't remember, it's not waves or currents. I don't remember what the pool bar is outside, but even in the bedroom suites and in the bathrooms you could frost the glass as well.
Yeah, because those were the 2 biggest complaints about the tower, and most people that want that experience, immediately go, well, I want the biggest, greatest suite, and you put them in there. And then they come back and they're disappointed that there's not a balcony. So there's no outside space. So for those who are thinking about that type of suite, you need to consider if that's something that you need. I'm glad they did the frosted glass, because that was one of the biggest problems, is that you're sitting there enjoying your wonderful, luxurious accommodations, and you're looking right at a bar, which, for some people wouldn't bother them. For some people it does. But I'm really thrilled to see that they did such a great job on the decor in that theming too. I do think that they did a really good job with it, and it has any location that has enough storage, by the way, just so you know. You could probably have enough stuff for 14 days and 4 costume changes every day. There's enough storage and there's enough drawers in all of those suites to accommodate.
I think the thing that I'm not, this is not my vibe, but when I found out that they will deliver food to your suite from the different restaurants, including but not limited to Palo, I was like, hello. Yes. Oh, Becky, invite me. If you want to invite me over. Yeah. But I honestly think I do like the Bagheera and Raja suite better. I know that they're smaller, but they have a massive private balcony and your own little hot tub. I almost did my bad, Eddie Murphy, James Brown, gotten hot in a hot tub, but I won't.
Hot tub time machine.
I agree. I mean, I don't know if that's a hot take, but I think the Royal Suites are better than the Tower, but also I won't be staying at either, so it doesn't really matter.
And plus, for the amount of time, if we haven't sort of conveyed this already, the amount of time I think that you're going to spend in your stateroom on this ship is possibly going to be less than you would elsewhere. So the last thing I want to mention, again, I'm not a suites guy, I'm not a merchandise guy, but there is a lot of it, not just in sort of we were talking about the clothing and the jewelry and the watch shops, but in addition to Mickey's Mainsail and Treasures Untold and Dory's Forget-Me-Nots, the reason why I wanted to call out the merchandise was, one, there was a ton of Disney treasure-specific merchandise. I feel like there was more than the Wish, but what I found out, and I have my credit card receipts to prove it, is that not only does each shop have different merch, but there's I call it hidden merch, because if you go into the merchandise shop next to the Haunted Mansion Parlor, there's this tiny little alcove past the Pandora, and there's plenty of Pandora. There's this little alcove that has Haunted Mansion Parlor merch. And then we went upstairs to Dory's Forget-Me-Nots near the family pool area, and there's themed t-shirts towards some of the locations. I felt like we had struck unexpected gold.
I agree. I think the merchandise, I think they did a really good job on this ship. Tons of, inaugural sailings and all that stuff, which is nice, especially when you're going to be on a ship when it's new. You want something to commemorate it. But they have a lot of really nice Haunted Mansion Parlor merchandise, collectibles, jewel boxes and music boxes and a mirror with the hitchhiking ghost effect and stuff. So if you're into that location, definitely go and check out that merch.
Yeah, you're not going to have a hard time using your credit card on the ship. I loved the color palettes, too, of the merchandise. So even the bags with the ocean-inspired turquoises and greens and blues, I really am drawn to that, more so than I was with the Wish merchandise, because it just didn't appeal to me. So I might have spent a little bit more money than I normally do in there. But, yeah, finding those little hidden things is really cool. And I'm sure that they're going to come up with more of that, because the more of the little Easter eggs that cause people to walk into their shop and spend more money, the more they're going to do it.
Just want to add to talking about your credit card. Again, the thing I do love about Disney cruises is that you are not nickel and dimed constantly. If you want to do merch, you can, but you definitely don't need to. I don't think, the specialty restaurants are great, but you don't have to do them. Even the cocktails and things, you don't have to do any of that to enjoy the spaces. You could leave a ship and have very little room charges and have had a fantastic time. And I love Disney Cruise Line because they just don't make you feel like you are missing out if you're not constantly upgrading or adding on things that aren't included. And so if you're pricing these and you're looking at the prices and you're like, oh, that feels really steep, I guarantee you that if you have a family of 4 and you price out a realistic what you're going to actually spend at Disney World, by the time you get all your snacks and your bottled water and all the merch and all the things you're going to do versus cruise line, you're going to come out even if not cheaper on a cruise.
You almost led me down a tangent where I was going to talk about the Festival of Foods and just how good the food is on Deck 11, but I'm not. It is similar to the Wish, and the taco bowls and the barbecue is so good. And I've actually done that before. I've been on a cruise. I was by myself. I left, everybody else home. It was at work. And I wanted to see if I could do it. Mm-hmm. And other than the gratuities, I didn't spend a dime. And I ate my weight in chicken tenders and other delicious foods. But, we started off by talking about how this is sort of a sister ship to the Wish. And what I think it's doing is not only setting a high bar for the Wish-class ships, including the upcoming Disney Destiny, but despite the structural similarities, the Disney Treasure feels like a fully separate and distinct experience from the Disney Wish. The storytelling, the placemaking, the entertainment, the technologies, the little thematic nods, whether it is paying tribute to an attraction, a movie, the other ships in that incredible lanterns in the Grand Hall, the improvements I think that they made in the upgrades to the staterooms as well as in the theming and the entertainment, all of which align with this theme of adventure. I think the artwork and the venues and the ambiance and the menus and the entertainment contributes to this unified storytelling experience. And I honestly think that the placemaking and these stories overcome, and I don't want to call them deficiencies, but overcome some of those things that we feel are sort of challenges with the Wish. I did not feel it on here at all. I understand that I probably have recency bias. Did we just become best friends? Yes, we did. Did I maybe fall in love with the Disney Treasure? Yeah. Did it very quickly jump to, I don't want to sort of put it like in, where it sort of fits in the order, but I love how, look, every ship tells its own story, and I love the story that this ship tells. I love that warmth and the coziness and inviting aspect to it, and the history and the sentiment and the nostalgia. I think there's a lot of reasons to fall in love with a ship that, while it might look similar on the outside, is a very distinct experience overall.
There's a lot of validity to what you just said, but before I
knew she was going to say but. Those are all nice points, Lou. However, you're wrong.
No, you're not wrong, and I don't think you will be wrong. I want to experience it for the full 7 days and a full ship. I really want to see the elements and what it's like with on an actual sailing, to see if I'm still as enamored as I am right now with trying to experience all these wonderful things that we're talking about. Is it better than the Wish? To me, 100%. I think that the Wish is built to be a 7-day ship that they're trying to make into a 3 and 4 day ship, which is also probably one of the reasons why we kind of recoil a little bit about it. But to do an entire 7 days on it with the full ship, I want to reserve putting it to the top of my list until I've done that. Because right now,
I do to your point, I not to interrupt, but I'm going to interrupt. I do think that the Wish, especially if you've never cruised on Disney before, I think the Disney Wish on a 3-4 day is a perfect introductory cruise to Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah, I think so too, especially for if you're brand new to cruising. and you don't have other things to compare to and contrast to, it's not going to be a bad experience. It's going to be a fantastic experience for you and your family. And especially, people always ask me this all the time, if I'm going to go concierge, what ship would you do? And immediately...
She said if she's going to go concierge.
Well, I meant the clients. When the clients ask if they want to book a concierge level with Disney, what ship should they do? The Wish is the ship to do. Now, of course, I think the Treasure is going to be the ship to do because of the expansive areas and the elevated experience they have for concierge guests on board, as opposed to the other ships where, like the smaller ships, you actually have to go up to deck 11 to experience, or 12, whichever one it is. But I really think that, don't discount, even though we're talking about the Wish and being a little bit less than the Treasure, it is a fantastic experience for those of you who can only do a 3 or 4 night sailing, or you want to pair it with a land and sea stay. I think that is a great option for you. But the Treasure just takes it up a notch in that warm hug feel, and in that family feel, and in that adventure feel, and all the things you experience in a theme park, in a way, is kind of here on a ship that hasn't been there before, or they've taken little steps and little nods to it, but this really feels like you're enveloped in it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that obviously we need to have a full guest experience to say, but I'm just so impressed with this ship. And going back to the Wish and looking at, they made that documentary on building the Wish, and you can kind of see how many challenges they were up against and how much time constraints were. And of course it was COVID era, and there was all kinds of supply issues and whatever. But they were down to the wire with that ship, right? And we saw it when we were boarding, and they were touching up paint and doing things, and we were like, oh, okay, should we be on here? This ship feels complete. Yeah. They had time. They had the luxury of time to finish and take every detail fully 100%. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I noticed, is it just feels like a more overall complete experience.
I think they took what is great about the Wish and made it even better. Mm-hmm. Not just in terms of physical spaces, but storytelling, environments. I just feel like everything is sort of woven in so well together. Even like, we didn't even talk about like the Jade Cricket Cafe. Yeah. Like that little cafe up on deck 5. Like the way it's so themed, it's a small little cafe. There's one on deck 5, and then there's the Hey Cafe on deck 4, if I have it correct. Mm-hmm. But I think that even they improved those spaces too, and I think that's what it is. And that's taking nothing away from the Wish, because I know the Wish is a lot of people's favorite ship, because that speaks to them. This ship, I felt from the moment I walked on board. And I love the fact that I still get, because I've been doing this 20 years, I still get choked up. Like I still get that little lump in my throat. When I walked on board, I'm happy that I was facing the camera the other way, because I had that, like, I was agape, like that jaw drop, like, oh my God. And then when I saw that chandelier change color and I heard the music, like, it just spoke to me. And that's why I'm like you, Becky. I can't wait to go back and do a full sailing. I can't wait to go back. We're doing a group cruise in February. I can't wait to share this experience with other people as well too, because I think, well, it's wonderful to do a cruise solo. Like a lot of things that we enjoy and love in life, they are best savored when you can share them with other people.
Absolutely. And there's no better way to cruise than with a group of people. And we have so much fun on those sailings. And even so, if you take your friends and family and their friends, while I like going with just me and my husband, I really enjoy when he has people that he can go off and drink his whiskey with and be happy, and I have people that I can go do things that I want to do, and we have just much more of a fun time when you're sharing that adventure.
I also spend a lot of time because it's a brand new ship. You know, taking a lot of very obscure photos for the scavenger hunt.
I love the one that I texted you, and you texted back to me, and you said, "Yeah, I got the same picture." So, yes.
Yeah, I did 150 questions for the last cruise that we did on the Magic. So this is going to be a whole new canvas to paint on. And I think whether you have cruised on Disney before, you've never cruised on anything before, or you have, your quadruple pearl, I think the Disney Treasure is going to be a unique cruising experience for all of the reasons that we mentioned. And we still didn't touch on everything that we experienced in a very short period of time. I would love to know from you, is the Treasure something that is on your must-do bucket list, can't wait to cruise? And if so, what is the area that is most attractive to you? What's the thing that you want to experience most? And if it's the empanadas in Plaza de Coco, then mazel tov, because they should be. Because if I hadn't eaten 3 other appetizers and 4 entrees, don't judge me, I was like, can you just give me a bag of 20 empanadas to take back to my room? Because they were that good.
Empanadas versus chicken tenders? What?
Why do you have to choose? Why do you have to choose? This is a body built on fried foods. In summary, you can snap your fingers. And I mean, this is the problem. I know the answer to this question already. Yeah. And you can be any one place other than the Haunted Mansion Parlor.
No, see, you can't do that.
I just did. If you can go to one other, if you just spend a little bit of time, spend an hour anywhere on the Disney Treasure, where do you go?
Can I pick the Tale Moana show? Because I've been obsessed with it. I just keep thinking about it. I want to see it again.
Yes. The Haunted Mansion would probably be my first, because I was only in it for 45 minutes, so I've got a lot more exploring to do in there. The Moana show again. I want to see it again. I'd love to see it from backstage. I'd like to see the whole thing happen from a backstage perspective, but that's what I'm most drawn to.
I don't think that's a wrong answer. I was trying to think, I can only spend, Mr. Mangello, we have another seating coming in. You need to leave Plaza de Coco. But in terms of new spaces, and that's why I say, that's the trifecta. Mm-hmm. That is the trifecta right there. And even some of the other smaller spaces that we mentioned, even the little cafe. Look, and I just want to quick, when you're on decks 4 and 5, the seating areas, the furniture is so warm and so comfortable, it's the soft. Yeah,
it's wonderfully themed. It's to the color palette of the entire area, and you've got that Akbar feeling, and it's I loved that. And
you can grab a coffee or grab a book or bring your laptop and just sort of sit there
and they have
and
the
chill.
Trees and stuff too, which makes such a huge difference in that space. It really fills it, enriches it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole ship feels a little bit more luxe to me than the Wish, so it feels a little more higher end. I don't think you need a connection to Aladdin to just say, wow, this is a really nice space.
Okay, now you can only eat one thing from your voyage. What is it?
I can only eat one thing from my voyage. It's got to be something from the Coco restaurant, but I don't know.
Okay, empanadas.
I love the empanadas. I will say that. I will agree with you on that. However, the Marvel Sundae was pretty good too.
I absolutely like the menu in Marvel for the second night better than the first night, but I need to go back and try them all again.
What was it? What was the meat dish that they had? I can't remember.
No, really, be less specific.
Thank you, Beef Wellington. Yes.
What was the meat dish?
Beef dish. Beef dish, not bean dish. The heck is your problem?
Well, thank you for spending and sharing your thoughts and your insights with me. I can't wait to do it again with you, Becky. Thank you for sharing it with me. It was fun to share the experience with you, Serena. I know you were going to certainly cover this on, you have been covering it on all of your socials and certainly on your podcast as well, but tell people where they can find you.
LivingByDisney.com, Living by Disney on all the socials and on any podcast app.
And Becky Menken, when can we do this again? We're going to do it in February. We still have, as the time of our recording, we still have a little bit of room if somebody wants to join us.
We definitely have some room on that one, because the great thing about our groups right now is it's just until the ship sells out. So come and join us. We do have a large group, which is going to be nice to share all of this with others.
And if you can't make it with us this February, that's okay, because right behind it, it's going to be here before you know it, is the Destiny coming up the following February. So we're also going to be doing a group on the Destiny as well.
Yeah, and you never know, that adventure might be something, too, that pops up on the to-do list.
I mean, we're going on the adventure. Who are we kidding? But if you want to sail on the Treasure, on the Destiny, on the Wish, any Disney Cruise Line, or if you're planning your next vacation to World, Land, or any place on this big, blue, beautiful world of ours, go visit my friends over at Mouse Fan Travel for completely fee-free, and more importantly, the personalized vacation planning that is the difference.
Oh, more importantly, booking with us also supports WDW Radio and Lou Mongello's efforts, too. So.
And my empanada addiction.
Exactly, because, of course, clearly we need to get you back on the ship for your chicken tenders, otherwise you're going to lose it.
I'm so sad. I'm legitimately sad that Serena's looking at me like it's such a condescending manner. Like, how did you not get chicken tenders?
It's a thing. It's a thing. I can't even explain it, but that becomes the thing, and I don't understand, but okay.
Well, this was great, and I cannot wait to go back and see it again. Now I want to go home and watch Moana. I feel like I need to sort of get my Moana fix.
Have you seen Moana 2 yet? I haven't seen it yet.
It was on the ship, but we didn't have time to go see it. We chose to go to Haunted Mansion Parlor for the 14th time.
So you threw away a first-run movie and chicken tenders for Haunted Mansion. Does that tell you?
That does not speak volumes for that place. And this, we still didn't do a good job of conveying just how special it is.
I don't think so. I think there's so much more. And again, only 3 nights. I think there's things that we all missed.
Mm-hmm. Keep your ears open and your eyes on the walls around you, because there's a lot to see. Mm-hmm. Now I gotta watch Danny DeVito Haunted Mansion too.
Have you seen it?
I haven't.
It's really cute. You should see it. It was better than I
The cryptdoors creak and the tombstones quake.
Tombstone knockers swing and wake.
Happy haunts materialize.
And begin to vocalize. Grim, grinning ghosts come out to
I hope you enjoyed our look at and through the Disney treasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in this and every week. And whether you're planning for your first or your next Disney cruise, I hope this gets you excited for cruising on the Disney treasure. I can just say that everything that we talked about, I promise, does not convey just how spectacular this ship really is. We can talk more about it, and I'll take your questions on our next WDW Radio live show every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and on YouTube. And of course, we can talk all things treasure and take your questions over in the WDW Radio Clubhouse on Facebook. Just because it's the end of the episode, it does not mean it is the end of the fun. So come be part of the community and conversation over at wdwradio.com/clubhouse. It is fun, friendly, family-friendly, free, and I promise very, very welcoming. And if you have any thoughts about the Disney treasure or any questions, or if you have just a question or a comment that you'd like to share on the show, you can call the WDW Radio voicemail and be heard on the air. I'll play it on our next show at 407-900-9391. That's 407-900-WW1. Again, don't forget to connect with me on social. I am at Lou Mongello on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And as much as I love connecting and chatting with you online, I still believe that nothing beats a handshake and a hug. So please visit our events page, both on Facebook as well as on WDWRadio.com, to find out about our next Meet of the Month in Walt Disney World, as well as other events and adventures by Disney. Coming up next, I'd love to invite you to an afternoon of magic, memories, and making wishes literally come true for our WDW Radio second annual Dream Team Lunch and Silent Auction on Saturday, January 11th, 2025 at the Disney Yacht Club Convention Center. It is during Marathon Weekend, and it's a great way to connect with other members of the community, enjoy a delicious buffet lunch, and bid on unique Disney treasures and experiences in our silent auction, with all the proceeds going directly to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Tickets are on sale now. This event will sell out again, and for more information and to get your ticket, you can visit wdwradio.com/MAW, like Make-A-Wish, MAW Auction 25. And if you're interested in donating a unique item or experience to the auction, I'd love your help to make this event even more magical. You can reach out to me directly, lou@wdwradio.com. And don't forget, we still have some space available for our upcoming Adventures by Disney in 2025, including Japan in May, our Disneyland in Southern California adventure in July, our Adventures by Disney on the Seine River Cruise in September, with an optional pre-cruise Adventures by Disney Escape to Paris, and post-river cruise. Visit Disneyland Paris again to find out more and get a free no obligation quote from our friends over at Mouse Fan Travel. You can go to facebook.com/WDW Radio and click on the events tab there, or go to wdwradio.com/events. And finally, don't forget that the best way to keep updated on what is going on is through my free weekly email newsletter and updates. There's no algorithms, nothing to check. It's delivered to your inbox every Wednesday with exclusive content, contests, and exclusive information that I only share in the newsletter. It is, of course, completely free, and when you sign up, you can also get a free copy of my 102 Things to Do in Walt Disney World At Least Once book. You can subscribe by going to wdwradio.com/subscribe. And if there's ever anything I could do to help you, visit LouMongello.com or reach out to me directly. And I have a number of things I'm working on. I am very, very excited to share with you for the new year. Stay tuned, as I'll be making some announcements very, very soon. In the meantime, please remember to be kind, to choose the good, have a great day, and even better tomorrow. I love and appreciate you. So until next time, see ya.
Kindly watch your step, please. Watch your step.
Hurry back. Hurry back. Be sure to bring your death certificate if you decide to join us. Make final arrangements now. We've been dying to have you.